Democrats and the media are smearing Trump over his comments about Liz Cheney.
Aisha Hasni joins us now from Gastonia, North Carolina, with more. Hey, Aisha.
Hey, good morning to you guys. We're almost there. We have made it to the final weekend. A couple more sleepless nights, and we'll get there to election night. The former president moving on the campaign trail, heading here to North Carolina, a very critical state for him. He is moving on while the left and Vice President Kamala Harris try to hang on to this moment. Watch.
She's a radical war hawk. Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it. You know, when the guns are trained on her face. You know, they're all war hawks when they're sitting in Washington in a nice building saying, oh, gee, Will, let's send 10,000 troops right into the mouth of the enemy. But she's a stupid person. And I used to have, I'd have meetings with a lot of people, and she always wanted to go to war with people.
Okay, so that was the full soundbite. You got the context of the situation. Vice President Kamala Harris, though, trying to jump on this, saying that this should disqualify the former president from this race.
He has increased his violent rhetoric, Donald Trump has, about political opponents, and in great detail, suggested rifles should be trained on former Representative Liz Cheney. This must be disqualifying.
But Trump is actually doubling down and defending his comments.
She's a war hawk. She kills people. She wanted to, even in my administration, she was pushing that we go to war with everybody. And I said, if you ever gave her a rifle and let her do the fighting, if you ever do that, she wouldn't be doing too well, I will tell you right now. If she had to face the consequences of battle, she wouldn't be doing it. So it's easy for her to talk, but she wouldn't be doing it.
And get this, guys, at least one CNN contributor is now retracting his original criticism. We're talking about Jonah Goldberg, and he said that he reacted in, quote, haste when he said that Trump was calling for a firing squad execution. That's not what he was doing. He still doesn't like what Trump said, but he said that he let his disgust for the comments get the best of him. Back to you.
All right. Thank you, Aisha.
Thank you. Yeah, so that one thing none of us had in our election advent calendar was, closing argument for Kamala Harris will be campaigning with the Cheneys.
Right.
So that has been a focal point of what she's done. Now, obviously, Donald Trump has taken notice of that. And part of taking notice of that is pointing out the record of the Cheneys, which is, as war hawks, they have gotten us into and dragged out wars that have gotten a lot of Americans killed and that haven't necessarily done a whole lot for the national security of America. So in the process of, I should just play it. In the process of making that argument, he said, why doesn't Liz Cheney go out and fight if she loves these wars so much?
Yes.
That's the point he made. It was very clear. If you watch the clip, it's very clear what he was talking about, but the media has said otherwise.
In fact, they took to their airwaves, and this is what they had to say about him suggesting, if you're going to vote for wars, maybe you should pay the price of wars. Maybe you should fight in wars. Look what this was done when it was turned into a translation by your friends in legacy media.
Isn't that statement a disqualifying statement?
It should.
Why is he allowed to run for president?
I fled communism. This is exactly what communists do. Yep. They shoot their opponents.
Let's just be clear. When you talk about 9 barrels, I'm sorry for all the folks out there who want to dance on the head of a pin. That is what he is talking about, an execution fantasy.
Donald Trump's continued embrace of rhetoric encouraging violence against American citizens. The latest suggestion being that Liz Cheney should have guns, quote, trained on her face.
Whether Trump was making a point about warmongering or not, what is clear is that Trump has made many comments recently that have been inappropriate and even violent.
In true autocratic fashion, he took it even further, openly fantasizing about violent retribution against one of his political opponents.
This is so remarkable. The person who was shot at twice, had assassins try to shoot him twice, once got him in the ear near his head, is the guy who is on, being called out for political violence. What? And as you said, Pete, it's so obvious what he meant. And this thing with the Cheneys goes way back. Remember, it was Donald Trump in 2016 who said no more stupid wars. And he has been calling out the Cheneys and the whole neocon warmongering crowd that's on the left and the right for a long time. And that's what he was referring to. It's obvious to anybody who saw that clip.
Pete, you might not have had it on your bingo card that there would be the Cheneys at the center of the 2024 election, but you could have had it on your bingo card. There would be a completely manufactured false hoax story in the days before the election.
Got to be something.
Here's how it was turned into headlines. Look at the Drudge Report, the shell of what used to be the Drudge Report.
It's gone. It's
Trump
gone.
calls for Cheney's execution. The New York Times. Trump attacks Liz Cheney using violent war imagery. CNN. Trump rages that war hawk Liz Cheney should be fired upon. The Washington Post. Trump embraces violent rhetoric, suggests Liz Cheney should have guns trained on her face. Rolling Stone. Trump fantasizes about putting Liz Cheney in front of a firing squad. You know, I'm pretty fired up about this. And I know that at times that we can laugh off, oh, look at how ridiculous the media is. This is a complete and utter hoax. It is the truth spun on its head and turned into a lie. And, you know, President Trump has talked about this at times. First of all, you at home, you should create a list. I want to start a list. And anybody that perpetuated this story never deserves attention, nor any credibility, nor any benefit of the doubt. You are a liar. You are a 100% pure liar. And if there are licenses, if there are government grants, if there are anything going to an organization that does this, cut them. This is the end. To me, this is it. You don't get to look straight into America's face and go, black is white and up is down. You don't get to lie. Not like this.
Well, speaking of that, Will, here is a list of all the journalists who are spreading misinformation about the Cheney comments. Look at that list. Pretty long.
Yes, you got CNN, Politico, MSNBC, The Washington Post, Reuters, even National Review, Rolling Stone. I don't like the word misinformation because it gets used all the time in the wrong context.
I hate that word.
It's just a lie, Will, to your point. It's not misinformation. It's just straight up, we refuse to acknowledge the truth of the comments that he made, which are substantive comments about someone who for years has been peddling and pushing wars that she would never fight, and her class and her ilk of people would never fight. Dick Cheney's only shot one person, and it's his hunting partner. Like, it's just never been a thing. And they just straight up they just add it to the enemy's list. Like, this is and Liz Cheney just soaks it in. Like, yes, Donald Trump wants to kill me. They want to be at the center of their own universe. I
don't think people are buying it. That's what's so interesting. There have been so many hoaxes. I don't think people are buying it anymore.
Let's hope, but it gets clipped and played, right? Clip it, 12 seconds, boom, social media, boom. And I think other people see through that. I don't think it moves many votes at this point. It's just ridiculous.
Well, I think that it's very interesting that Donald Trump is going to Michigan, by the way, as Cheney is running with the Democrats and that record. And I think everyone knows that there's all these lies and these hoaxes, and I don't think people are buying it.
I want there to be a price to be paid. And I
agree with you.
And I'm not satisfied with low ratings. I want there to be a price to paid. I want licenses pulled, and I want a boatload of defamation suits filed about people. The standard when it comes to a public figure is reckless disregard for the truth or actual malice. There's no more public figure than Donald Trump. So in order to prove defamation, he has to suggest that list of people knew that they were wrong and they had malice in their intent. Easy standard to prove. He'll be on at 8. I want to know, are you going to file defamation suits? Because there has to be a price to pay for this type of lying.
He's definitely not afraid of filing lawsuits. So
Will Cain.
That's a great question.
Fired up this morning.
I love it.
Ready to go.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.